Yep.
But the persistence is something that I think you and I have shared.
Yes.
The persistence of, I still haven't figured it out. It still sucks to be me sometimes, but I'm still looking at the person who has achieved what I now know is possible.
Yes.
And I just absolutely refuse to believe I can't get there. I don't know how, and I don't know how long it's going to take.
Right. Exactly.
Hello, I'm Erin Marcus, founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, and I want to welcome you to Ready Yet? If all you needed was a step-by-step plan of what to do, you could buy a book on how to succeed and you would be all set. But here's the rub. You'll never do what it takes until you become the person it takes to do it. The Ready Yet podcast is dedicated to those who are ready to become the person who succeeds, ready to become the person who steps into more, and ready to become the best version of themselves. In the I'm Ready interview series, join me for inspiring conversations with people who figured out who they needed to be in order to achieve their dreams, and were brave enough to be that person.
Welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast, where we talk to entrepreneurs about their journey and who they had to be to get to where it was that they wanted to go. And I'm really excited about today's guest because Debbie and I kind of started our journey together, right? We literally met, and we just realized, at an event for speakers that was it's happening now. And I don't know how many years later is. It's like 6 years later or something, and it's happening now. So before we get to me keep going on and on and on, right? Why don't you give everybody an official introduction of who you are and what you do, and then we can dive into your story, because I realize there's parts of it that I don't actually know.
Which is hard to believe because we've been on track with each other for many years. I think we were at a networking event and people were saying, "Oh, you're going to this event and she's going to that event. You guys should be roommates." And then we're like, okay, I don't know you, but yes, we can be roommates. And then of course we liked each other, which was a good thing. So I'm Debbie Pickus and my company is called Team Fireball. And it really started as fitness team building because I've got a fitness and martial arts background. And so we were doing, I had owned a title boxing club. The idea of this fitness team building came, and that business didn't work out so well, but we took the team building idea on the road and ended up doing just a lot of really great things for some companies and corporations. But currently, I'm more focused on helping professional women, whether they're in the corporate space or whether they're a small business owner, identify and eliminate the self-sabotaging language and behaviors that prevent them from really scaling up and getting to their next level. I find that so many of us, I'm going to include myself in the mix, right?
Absolutely.
So many of us have a tendency to carry this self-doubt, this lack of confidence, this insecurity, this comparison-itis, all the things. And we see other people moving forward faster and we wonder, what are we doing wrong? What's the problem here? Like I'm doing all the things. I've got all these great tactics and all these great strategies and it's not working. Well, the reason it's not working is because what's going on in here, there's like a little mental bully in there. And she's like, she's the mean girl from grade school or high school, right? That keeps telling you that you're not worthy. And so I help people nip that girl in the bud.
Nice. I thought of a random question that I don't know. Maybe I know the answer and I don't remember the answer. What were you doing before I met you and we went to Arizona and you changed this? Because I feel like when we met and we went to this coaching event, this marketing event, and it was all about becoming a speaker. Now, from my standpoint, I owned a business at that time, working with families with aging parents, and I was speaking in order to get clients. I was speaking as part of my corporate job, so that wasn't new to me, but when you live in Chicago and someone says, hey, do you want to go to the Four Seasons in Phoenix and it's November, you just kind of say yes. You don't, it really doesn't matter why you're going. You just go, get me out of here. Yes. Absolutely. And I knew it was about becoming, well, I didn't know, I was wrong. I thought it was about becoming a better speaker. What I came to learn was it was about building a brand and using speaking as a business.
Right.
But what were you doing that got you in that room as well? Because I know we met networking, but I can't remember what you were doing.
Yeah. Well, I probably still owned the Title Boxing Club at that time, which was a franchise that, you know, a friend of mine, we went on a Groupon to a Title and we're like, this is a fun workout. Oh, it's franchise. Oh, should we get one? Great idea. You know, let's not think
that's
this.
Right. Okay. Now it's coming back to me. It's coming back to me. God,
yeah. But at the time, so what happened to me with that event was I saw that one of our friends was a sponsor and she was promoting it. And I reached out to her and said like, hey, you know, what do you think about this? And of course she said, yes, this would be great for you. And I'm like, done, you know, exactly what you said. It was like, it's going to be in November in Arizona. Sounds like a great idea. But I was really, back then, it's so hard because so many things have blurred. Like now that I've actually started looking back at, you know, where my mindset was so many years ago, I was really just lost. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Like I can remember going to that conference and they were talking about like, you know, what pisses you off or like breaks your heart or makes you cry. And I'm like, I don't know, like the fact that I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right. I don't even know what I'm doing. So here's something that you did though. And this is a huge teaching point. And looking back, you can see that you did it. Now I was in a little different because I owned a business and I was doing well and I was looking to grow the business and things have changed since then. But at least in that moment, I had a bit of a plan. But the thing that you did that I'm sure you see this as well, you took a step, right? You didn't know what you wanted. You were feeling all the feelings, but instead of feeling all the feelings in your living room, you went and said, all right, let's see what this is.
Right. Well, so, and there's an interesting thing that happened at that event. I'm going to backtrack a little and then I'm going to tell you about that event, what happened at that event that like really woke me up. So before that, like I said, I'd had this other business and I'd had several other jobs and businesses and things. I mean, I've been kind of one of those people. It's like, you know, I'll be an entrepreneur for a year and not working out. I'll get a job, I don't want to have a job. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to try this thing, that thing. I just really was always in search mode. But what had happened before this event, like about, maybe within the year before that event is I lost my home to foreclosure. While the process of all that was going on, right? Like while I was in a place of financial despair and while I knew that I was going to be losing this home, I also found myself in an abusive relationship. And in this relationship on a regular basis, I would be hearing that I effed up. I screwed up everything I'd ever had. I blew, I'd had money that went out the window. Like I burned through that. I trusted the wrong people. I just was a mess. Right. And I'd let myself go. And what kind of mother are you that you can't even keep a roof over your kids' heads and all these things. Now your audience might be thinking, wow, why not just leave that relationship? Well, guess what? I was having it with myself. And I was saying those things with energy.
Right.
Okay?
Vitriol. I mean, like,
yes. And oftentimes while looking in the mirror.
Okay.
Now, if you out there,
I was usually pounding on the steering wheel in those moments, not actually looking in the mirror. So,
right. Well, no. And like, if you know anything about affirmations,
this is the
affirmations work really well, looking in the mirror and saying them with like an energy and a power. So I was basically affirming that I was a worthless piece of crap. Now, how far do you think that was getting me in life? And one day I had an epiphany it was just so weird how this came to me, but I had this epiphany and I saw, and I'm going to get emotional every time I tell this story. I lose it before I even say it. I imagined the look on my daughter's face if I spoke to her that way. And my daughter's now 26. So this is like probably 10 years ago, right? 9-10 years ago. And my daughter's, she's just this cute little freckle face. And I saw her face just completely crumble in because I can see it a mile away when she's going to cry. Like it's like, there's a pattern.
Right. You have the mom radar. Yeah.
I saw it happening and it broke my heart. And I'm like, if I would never speak to her that way, why do I think it's okay to speak to myself that way? And I discovered it wasn't. Now, fast forward a little bit, right? Ended up losing my house, ended up moving somewhere else. Just a lot of things went down the tube. And then this opportunity came up to go to this event. And like you said, I took a step. So on the first day of this event, and you'll probably remember this happening to host, right? The woman said, they were talking about money and making money and losing money and everything else. And she's like, I could lose all my money tomorrow and it wouldn't even bother me. I know I could make it all back. Making money is easy. And in that moment, I started crying. I think I might have been sitting with you.
Right. We were sitting together.
I think we were all sitting at the same table because, and I lost it because it was like in that moment, I realized I don't believe that about myself.
Right.
No wonder money comes in and goes out. No wonder, I lost everything. No wonder, because I had all these money stories and I didn't know I had them, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me.
Well, even then, we don't know that they're money stories yet. For you and I, who were new in that world, right? And I always say I have a corporate background. I'm like, what is this coaching thing, mindset thing? I don't understand. But while we didn't yet have the language to identify the problem, I know from my perspective, here were these people who had the confidence and clarity to be able to get up in a group of other people and make a promise and a offer. Right. And that was where my big disconnect was. Like, right. I had a corporate job. I could close huge sales in my corporate job. Right. But it was because I was selling the services of a company. Yeah. It wasn't about me.
Right.
And that was kind of my version of that, where how do I get to feel that way? And it's something that I talk a lot about as well, because the money is great. Don't get me wrong. Right. You break through the barriers, you make more money. It makes life a lot more fun. It makes it a lot more easy. But the freedom from not being constantly angry at yourself.
Yes.
Is monumentally worth more.
Yes.
Than the money.
Absolutely. And the thing about it was, like you said, I didn't know necessarily it was a money story. I'm using those words now, like you said, but at the time I was like, that explains so much.
Right.
There it is. Cause I knew something was up. I'm like, why can't
we know something's wrong.
I knew something was wrong. And that moment is what kind of set me on, it's been quite a path now. Cause what is it, 5 or 6 years since we were there last, or since the first time, but yeah, it set me on a path, so now many years later, I've made a lot more discoveries and done a lot more work and changed what I do and what I present to the world. But right, it was that first thing that was like, that hit me in the gut. That is like, wow, I didn't even know that was in there. That explains a lot, and then I started my path of, how do I find someone to help me with this whole money thing? And I went down, I went down a few rabbit holes with that too. But they all need where you're going.
Well, and the other thing you did that I've also done, and we know people, because, when you're in that world, you see what people are doing, and you see some of them go away and do other things. Yep. But the persistence is something that I think you and I have shared.
Yes.
The persistence of, I still haven't figured it out. It still sucks to be me sometimes, but I'm still looking at the person who has achieved what I now know is possible.
Yes.
And I just absolutely refuse to believe I can't get there. I don't know how, and I don't know how long it's going to take.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But the persistence. So tell me, because, share with people, one of the things that I like to do is so much of marketing. And, that's one of my strengths. That's one of the things I focus on with my clients is marketing and how to have this coordinated, consolidated, intentional marketing program for your business. However, what that does is it means you're putting your best foot forward. You're putting your best self out there. And what I like to do with my conversations with people is explain that's not the only thing that goes on.
Right.
It's not the only, don't compare your real life to somebody else's highlight reel.
Right.
And I think there is not woe is me, because I don't go woe is me, and I don't go victim, but sharing a bit of the struggle, sharing the dirty underbelly of how we all got there. That's how people can relate to us, right? And realize it's not that I'm no different. I'm no different than the other person who's still in more of the struggle. I've just been working at it longer, right? And probably a little harder.
Yeah. Or, the thing is that you just, we reach out to mentors, we learn from other people, right? The entrepreneur or anybody, right? It doesn't even have to be about business. It could be about anything in life. If you've been doing something over and over, trying to do it yourself, and it's not happening, get some help, right? And get some professional help. And that, you need professional help, but I mean,
maybe, but
right. And that might be true. That's okay.
Well, and I'm going to compare it to your fitness world.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a perfect comparison. And I know that's part of what you had in mind in the previous ways you did your business was.
And I still merge that in, truthfully. Yeah.
Because it's who you are. I do the same thing. If I'm giving examples, they're either about dog training or being in the gym, because that's been my life for so long. But the persistence to not give up.
Right.
Even when it really doesn't look like anything's working.
Right.
The persistence to one of my new favorite quotes, and I can never get it right, is, success is tied to how much truth you can learn about yourself without running away, right?
I like it. Exactly.
Let's face it.
I just found that out. I'm out of here.
It's I don't want to talk about this.
I don't want to know. Beer in my head for a while. Netflix.
Well, the other thing that I've watched you do that I'd love to hear about is, I don't call it pivoting, because it's not, it's iterations. What you've done with your business and what you offer is to try it for a while, and then what worked, what didn't work, and make the next step.
Yes, absolutely. And that's such a great point, Erin, because we evolve, right? We grow, we change, we do pivot, but it's not a pivot, as much as it's like you kind of switch gears, right? I mean, even when the pandemic, everything I was doing was in person before that. So my coaching was mostly online, virtual, but I mean, events and speaking and all that were in person. I was at a conference last year, March of 2020, like the last conference that existed on the planet for a while. And by the time, when I went there, things
was
were
a different world by the time.
When I left, even Disney was closed. It's like, oh my God, what just happened? And I had to figure it out, right? As did many people, but the work was similar. It was just how it was being delivered looked a little different. And so, but to your point, the fitness team building, the self-defense training, the things that we were doing for corporate, they all involved this awareness and power and confidence mindset.
Yep.
And so what ended up happening was I started the evolution to morph a little bit more into that coaching, because what I found is that confidence and presence and purpose and feeling like you own your stuff, that's the thing that just presents a powerful presence and person when you walk in a room, right? So whether you've got this powerful presence because you want to make sure nobody attacks you physically, or whether you are going to speak on a big stage and you want to come off as somebody that's got a powerful presence, or you're going to pitch a client for your corporate, whatever it is, that same powerful mindset of I've got this. Right? I may not know how it's going to go. Like you said, you don't always have to know the how. Or you were saying earlier, you believed that you knew you had something, and being in alignment, emotionally, being intentional, being powerful and confident, and having a belief system of I know I offer something amazing to the world. I am enough exactly the way I am. I have all these years of all this expertise, and I'm the only one that has all that. I can bring that to the table, and I can deliver it to somebody and make a difference in their lives. I mean, that's really the foundation of what we're all trying to do, right? We're all just trying to help somebody else elevate themselves.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I know I really enjoy having conversations about who you need to be in order to reach new heights. As founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business, I work with my clients at the intersection where what they need to do to succeed meets who they need to be to do it. If you would like to have a conversation about your business, please reach out to me at erin@conqueryourbusiness.com.
Well, and the other thing that I think that you've done well in hindsight, and take the credit if you did it on purpose, is the right.
Totally did that on purpose.
Totally was on purpose. I meant to do
no
that.
idea what she was going to say.
The difference between it's very nuanced, and you have to everyone figures this out. There's very fine lines between banging your head against the wall on something that doesn't work versus squirrel changing direction every 2 seconds because something didn't work.
Yes.
And what you've done, which is iterative progress.
Yes. Absolutely.
So again, take the credit if that was on purpose.
Yeah. No, well, and you know what? The thing is, I was going to say that at the beginning, so I'm really glad that you brought that up, because both of us have kind of switched gears, right? And done a few different things.
Things evolved.
Right. But we also grow as people, and we also, there's a gift we want to bring the world. There's things that we understand we're good at, and how and where that gets delivered is not as important as the fact that it does.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it was caring for the elderly and helping people deal with that transition, or if it was helping people in their businesses transition into an up level in their marketing and branding, or whatever it is. Right. And for me, it was so funny because I look back on notes from, my God, years ago, like in the early 2000s, right? When I did the Landmark Forum and some of these other things. And I look at notes about what I want in my life. And it was always I want to empower women to really understand their greatness. And I look back, I found these notes how did
I know that?
I'm like, what? I did? I didn't even know, it's so funny. But I think that our soul knows, right? Our intuition knows what we want. We feel it intuitively, and somehow we end up there, and we don't always even know, until you see something from 10 years ago that you wrote down, or 20 years ago, or however many years ago that is now. Oh my God, I really did. I always wanted to do this. That kind of floored me when I found it, but it also made me feel good. It's okay, I'm doing what I was meant to do. How cool is that?
Well, and as you said that, wrapping it up that way, I think in most of our journeys, there are these glimpses of the authentic, and yet it takes the work before we're able to live in the authenticity, live in the purpose, live in control of your life, as opposed to, you looked at that, but at the time you weren't ready. So you went and got a job, right? And then you did a glimpse, right? And I think there's a lot of that for many entrepreneurs.
Yes.
If we really looked back, there were glimpses all along.
Yeah.
And then we were finally ready.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, and I would also say to all the entrepreneurs out there, like, don't beat yourself up if you've changed gears a few times. Don't beat yourself up if you went and tried to do something and then had to switch. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't really know what I was good at. I didn't have a belief in myself. So I tried this thing. That sounds good. I could probably do that. I tried this thing. Oh, that sounds good. I could probably do that. And that's where my hopping around early on, right, was. But
that's where you learn from.
Yes, true. But also I think that now there's more advances in people, like in mindfulness and in purposefulness. And there's a lot of things that people can do now to really understand, like, have what their purpose is or what they're good at or all those things that were probably available back then. I just didn't know about them or have access to them. I want to share with your audience that don't beat yourself up if you've jumped around. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up if you tried different things and it didn't work. It's okay. It's time to really understand, like, intuitively, what's in here, what's going on in here, and how can you merge those two things together and then access, find the access to the things that you're looking for, because a lot of times we're do first, be later. You got to be the thing first.
Yes. And I think that was one of the big surprises to me coming out of corporate, being a very action taking based person. It was
a lot of do.
It's all do. Well, and then the other thing is, looking back, I currently call 2018 Erin's year of failure. I can say that with
so you only just have 1 year. Yeah, whatever.
It was like nothing I tried worked.
Yeah.
Nothing I
wouldn't understand that at all.
Right. And in the moment, it was horrible. And I can also tell you, here we are, 19, 20, 3 years later, and I can find, I had to use fingers, 3 years later, where I can say that neutrally, with no longer being upset about it, no longer feeling wrong and guilty and crappy and embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if I look at some of the things that didn't work, number one, thank God they didn't work, because really should have never been doing that.
No, it's amazing how that is, isn't it? Yeah.
And the second half is, well, no wonder they didn't work. Going back to what you said before, it wasn't really in alignment with my heart and in my head and what I know to be me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't in alignment. And if you look, I gave this to a client of mine who is a graphic designer and a branding expert, and I gave her my original logo, which, my God, who looked at me and thought swirly curly Q paisley was going to be my brand? Like, could we get more out of alignment?
Yeah. You're not swirly and curly.
There's nothing curly Q and paisley.
You're like,
I mean, my God, could we have gotten more out of alignment? But I didn't know. And I was still being driven by fear. And I was still being guided, not by my confidence, but by what I was interpreting as what I was seeing everybody else doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And that's where the work that you're doing and the work that I do with my clients is, how do you tap it, getting through the muckety muck,
right,
so that you can reach that and reach it faster.
Yeah. I just love all that you just said, because it is what happens. Like, first of all, you can't, try and fit that square peg in that round hole. You can't, when you try and force something and it's not working. Like, I'm not about like, oh, that was hard, let me give up. But I am like, how many times are you going to bang into a brick wall without realizing, like, maybe there's a flowy or easier.
Maybe there's a window 3 feet to the left. Right.
There's a door over there. Try opening that door, but it's so, when things don't work out at the time, like, source knows, like, the life is always working for you, right? Yes. It's always working for your greatest good. And in the moment, we, human beings that are living in this very linear kind of place don't always understand that when something doesn't work out, it's, there's a reason. You dodged a bullet. I mean, I had a relationship years ago that didn't work out, and I look back on it now and I'm like, thank you. You know, like, but I mean, at the time it feels terrible. So yes, I completely understand what you're saying. And it's why the work that I do, it is helping people like really understand what's going on underneath. Like, oh, this thing, you keep bumping up against this thing. Well, what's underneath that? Let's talk about that. And usually we find something underneath. And as soon as we get deep down there, not only do you start to see that same belief system everywhere, right? Because it's like the lens through which we view everything, but you can understand, like, there's a reason that didn't work out. Now, I mean, I've got a client right now that was doing all these things. And we finally discovered the thing that is like just her lane, right? Her niche. That's so fantastic. And she's like, I don't want to do all that stuff anymore. I'm like, yeah, because it's stuff that
fit right.
It doesn't fit. It's out. I mean, she could do it. She wasn't great at it. It wasn't great, but it was all this little stuff. It's like, I only want these big projects that look like this. And as soon as she let go of all that other stuff, it was like, boom, 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 everything just flowing right into her. But we had to understand like what was going on.
And it also, it's hard work as far as it's not easy, but it's not complicated.
Right.
And it's just, yeah, I mean, it's just been, when you get to the point where you're excited to figure out the next thing wrong with you so you can get rid of it.
I can't wait. What else is fun?
Tell me how screwed up I am now so I can get rid of that, right?
I'd write a really long list so I know exactly what's going on.
It's such a different, so as we wrap this up, and I'm going to give you a second to tell people how to get in touch with you. But before we do that, as someone who's witnessed the journey,
yeah,
you were always an awesome human being. It's not that.
Thank you.
You're just your energy is a completely different person. There is that calmness and peace about you.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
There is the you were always fun. You know, that was always there. The personality isn't different. The personality was always there.
Yeah.
But underneath, the confidence, the calmness, the peace,
right, is
like night and day. And it's just always so nice to see that in somebody.
Thank you. Yeah. Yours as well. So it's great. Yeah. It's the fun thing about this is that we've known each other for so long. I think it's really heartwarming and rewarding, whether it's a client of your own or just a friend or somebody you know, when you knew them, like, you know, a certain amount of years ago when things were maybe a struggle or just confusing, or it was like, it wasn't quite working. And then you see them at a place where they've kind of evolved into that next level and they're just like, hey, I'm rocking this. Right. And I feel great about it. And I'm completely relaxed and peaceful and calm and in flow and all those, you know, woo-woo words, but truth. Right.
But true. Right. It is.
Yeah.
Right.
So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
So tell people, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you? We're going to put all the links in the show notes on all of the places, but in case somebody's in their car and doesn't have that, what's the best way to get
I'm going to say social media is great. And there's on my Facebook page, I've got my maiden name, which it's not listed. Well, people are in the car anyway. You know what? Find me on LinkedIn, Debbie Pickus. There it is. Do that. Send me a message, connect with me, but then send me a message too, that you heard me on Erin's show or saw me on Erin's podcast, because I'm finding in LinkedIn, a lot of people like to send me private messages and it's like, you know, here's my sales pitch. Please don't.
Oh my gosh, please.
Yeah, please. I'm not even going to pay attention to you if you do that to me. But that way, or my website, www.team-fireball.com. What you're going to see on that website is a whole bunch of self-defense and team building stuff, because, you know, I'm a little behind on the coaching on there, but you could hit a contact us button there and just in case that's easier to do. And,
you're not hiding. In other words, you're not hiding.
No. Contact us and then tell me you saw me here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me for this official conversation. It was good to reminisce and catch up and share this with everybody. And I can't wait to see what the next 5 years bring.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Ready Yet podcast. I get so motivated by the amazing accomplishments of the remarkable people I meet, and I'm excited to be able to share some of their stories with you. You can find more episodes of Ready Yet at your favorite source for podcasts or at conqueryourbusiness.com. And if you've already decided that you are ready to become the person you need to be to achieve your big goals, feel free to reach out to find out how I can support you in your efforts. Or check out the Work with Erin page on the Conquer Your Business website. I also invite you to share this podcast with anyone you know who loves to learn and be inspired. And if you're so inclined, I'd be absolutely grateful for any reviews you'd like to share as well. Thanks again for joining me. This has been Erin Marcus, hopefully inspiring and helping you to go conquer your big dreams.